President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump have touched down in Atlanta ahead of their first presidential debate this election cycle. That debate just over an hour away.
A live look now at the stage where the 90-minute debate will feature muted mics when the other candidate is talking and no live studio audience. Both candidates hope to convince voters to choose them during November's general election. According to the Associated Press, 56% of voters say they are very or somewhat dissatisfied with Biden being the Democratic Party's likely nominee for president, and a similar number for Trump as the Republican presidential nominee at 55%. We have live analysis tonight ahead of the debate regarding what these candidates need to do to change these numbers. We are joined now by King 5 political analyst Gary Locke and Rob McKenna with an exclusive preview. Gary, of course, a former two-term governor of Washington State, and Rob served as state attorney general.
We want to thank you both for being here with us today. Gary, we're going to start with you this afternoon. What message do you think the candidates need to convey to reach voters who are, frankly, a lot of people just not happy with the choices they have and they're undecided? So what's the key points for each one tonight?
Well, I think that the positions of both candidates are pretty well known. And so what I think the audience and the voters are going to be looking at is how they conduct themselves. Will Trump try to interrupt even though the microphone is turned off? The last time they had a debate, he was very disruptive and very rude. And actually having the microphones off may help him and avoid that image of that being cantankerous, a very individual. At the same time, people are going to be looking at President Biden to see, to really gauge his mental fitness, his sharpness, his memory, and his manner of speaking and his demeanor. Because age, of course, is a big factor among a lot of the undecided voters. And so they're going to be watching President Biden to see whether or not age is in fact affecting his mental ability.
All right, let's talk about the fact that we've got some big issues here for 2024. Abortion, border issues, the economy, they're not new issues. These are issues we hear almost every election cycle. Rob, let's talk about the importance of those and what else voters really should be looking for here.
Well, we know what issues Trump is going to focus on. He's going to focus on inflation, high housing costs, illegal immigration, and the border crisis. He'll talk about violent crime and fentanyl. I think President Biden will talk about two issues mainly, abortion and Trump himself. He'll try to make Trump the issue. And so I think it's pretty clear cut what their messages will be. The question is, what will resonate most strongly with voters? Right now, according to the latest New York Times Siena poll, which came out today, Trump has a 4-point advantage, a 3-point advantage if you factor in Kennedy's candidacy. So it's a race that's still quite close, but not quite as close as it was last week when it was a 1-point race. So President Biden, I'm sure, will work hard to try to score points on Donald Trump. And for those of you playing debate bingo at home, you may want to have a square for containing the word felon to see if that comes up.
Yeah, we might hear that quite a few times tonight. This next question I'm going to open up to both of you, but I'll start with Gary. We've noted those rule changes in the debate, including no live studio audience. And the Trump campaign has expressed some concern with that decision. How do you think it's going to affect each candidate? Will this be a benefit to one or the other?
I actually think that having the microphones turned off benefits former President Trump because he won't, the public won't hear him trying to interrupt President Biden. He will not appear as rude as he did and antagonistic and really discourteous as he was 4 years ago in the debate. So that's really going to help him.
Rob, what do you think? And what about the idea of feeding off the energy of people in the room? Is that going to benefit one? You know, is that going to hinder the candidates when they're up there on stage?
You know, I think all candidates benefit from hearing their supporters in the audience because there'd be a mix of people, and both at various times, both Biden and Trump would hear people applauding for them. I do think it may be a bigger deal for Trump to not have a live audience. He does seem to feed off the energy of the audience, as you put it, and he seems to enjoy that. So it's probably more of an advantage for Biden that there's not a live audience. I agree with Gary that in a perverse way, turning the mics off unless you're actually it's your turn to speak, may protect Trump against himself. But I also would point out that Trump learned something from the two debates that he had against Biden in 2020. In the first debate, as Gary pointed out, he hectored and interrupted Biden until Biden finally said, quote, "Shut up, man." And it hurt Trump. There's no question. In the second debate, he did not interrupt as much and was a little more measured and statesmanlike. And the polling showed he was considered to have done better in that debate.
It's something we need to talk about here is that we right in the intro, we're talking about this 55 to 56% for both sides. People just aren't happy with these choices that they have on the ballot for November. So what can happen tonight? And we'll start with you, Rob, and then Gary, I want you to answer the same question. What do we need to see tonight for people to get on board with their candidates?
I think messaging is really important. Is the candidate speaking to the issues that matter to you as a voter? I always say that candidates have to figure out in each election what the election is about. That doesn't mean what they think it's about. It means what do the voters think the election is about. So whose messaging will resonate more fully with the voters, with the majority of voters? That's what each of these candidates has to factor into the remarks. And I've already said what I think both candidates are going to focus on: the economy on the one hand and public safety versus abortion and Trump's personal problems. So will that resonate with the voters? Will it move undecided voters? The problem with debates are that they tend to attract people to watch them who have already made up their mind. So one of the effects of debates is to reinforce people's views that they already held. How many voters will change their minds as a result of the debate? That may depend on whether one candidate or the other really flubs, really has a weak performance. If they both perform well, it may not move the needle much at all, frankly.
All right, Gary, your thoughts?
I very much agree with Rob. The audience is going to focus on the issues, how well the candidates articulate their vision on addressing these issues, and whether or not they're connecting with the everyday people, whether they share the same worries, concerns, and even aspirations of the audience. The second thing is that they're going to want to see whether or not the candidates act presidential, whether or not, because of their age, whether either one of them has the stamina and the mental acuity to continue to lead the country. And so I think people are going to be looking at their style and how they conduct themselves, and whether or not they're sharp, whether they are responsive to the questions, but also whether or not they frame the issues in a way that resonate with the concerns and aspirations and worries of everyday people.
Absolutely. Gary Locke, Rob McKenna, thank you so much for being with us. As always, we appreciate your analysis.